want to talk about your comedy special. I said it, y'all thinking it. I read that what motivated you in terms of your latest special was that you felt like you were kind of left out of the conversation in terms of other comedians or comedy. Is that accurate?
My whole career has been stand-up. That's where I started at. That's all I've done. Back to back, every stand-up show you could think of, whatever. That's what I've been on. But then like after Get Out and I started booking all these movies, I think people forgot that I did stand-up. And it annoyed me, right? Because it's like, and I didn't care at first, but I'm like, until I started touring and people were like, man, we just thought, we didn't know. I'm like, wait, I did all these shows though. What are you talking? That's how I got here, you know?
Right, yeah.
At some point, I'm like, okay, I want to be in a conversation as one of the best doing this. And I'm like, I'm never in that conversation.
Okay.
And I'm like, why is that, real? I'm like, maybe because I don't tour as much. And I don't have time because I'm shooting all these movies now.
Because you're so big in Hollywood.
Not like that, but it's like.
No, but you are an actor.
I know. But then it was like, let me show y'all. And that's why I was like, okay, this special has to be different, right? This one, I had to make it bigger this time. Let me do the bigger one. And that's what, like, we did Chicago Theater. Jesse Collins produced it with me.
I saw that at the end.
And which Jesse's big, you know, the award shows, like Super Bowls. I'm like, cool. And I was happy he said yes. He's like, cool. And then Ali Leroy, who directed it, you know, worked with Bernie Mac directly, show ran Everybody Hates Chris, you know, he's that guy. And so, okay, let's do it big. And we did Chicago Theater, and it felt big. And I mean, from like everything I did with this special literally was like, I remember I was getting like picked on at school one day and I stood up for myself and roasted everybody that was talking crazy. But I came home and I was so upset though, because it was, you know, I stood up to him, but it was hurtful.
Yeah.
You know, and so my mother was just like, someday they're gonna all change your name and you know, these lights and you don't have to worry about them. And so I remember that, which is why like in the beginning, I don't have a regular intro, like Give It Up for Lil Rel, it's a chant.
Yeah.
You know, Rel. That's based off my mom saying that. And so I was like, cool. I called my homeboy, Truth. He's a producer in Chicago. Shout out to Truth. I said, man, can you give me that chant? Because the chant comes from two things. A little flip song. Flip. Game over. Flip. So, you know, we did the chant. And it was electric when it came out. And then I kept hearing this house track in my head. Everybody think it's Kanye's track, but it's not.
It's not?
He took it from an old house song.
Oh, but we're not from Chicago. We don't know how.
I know.
We don't know
so I know. So that's why it was cheap for me to get, because I got the original track. I mean, it wasn't cheap, but
they didn't hit you over the head.
They didn't kill me with it. Because I paid for almost everything, like all the clearances, every music thing, the Lean On Me, all that had to be paid for. Out of my pocket.
But just for doing that little bit, you had to pay for it?
Because I did the song.
But you're not, okay.
It's so crazy. Yeah, and HBO was like, we get this your budget, so if you want that stuff, you got to pay for it.
Right.
Like, well, I will then.
Well, one of my favorite parts, it was hilarious, but the end really made me feel like it was Chicago smoking on, hey. Yeah. I was like, oh my gosh, he is from Chicago.
They opened the show. So we decided to put the opening at the end with them. And,
I loved it.
But the crowd didn't know Crucial Conflict was going to be there. I called them. I was at a bar one day like, yo, do y'all mind opening for me? I mean, I know it sounds weird. It's like, Rel, we'll do whatever. I'm like, cool. Oh. The audience went crazy. They came out there.
I did, and we were at home watching it.
The energy was on 10. So by the time I got to the stage, and it was kind of tough because, you know, I have comedian friends out there, and they're like, oh, this is a big opportunity. But I'm like, no disrespect to nobody, but this is what I want to do. It's all about me.
Well, they thought you should have
had some comics open.
Oh.
So I just
but it's your special. Is that typical?
I had comics open my other specials.
Okay.
And it's typical. Most of the time I have a warm-up comic.
But you just don't see that. We don't, just the audience, when we watch it at home, we just see you. We don't see the open.
Well, what you try to do is most of the time is get them warm, right? And you kind of gauge where they at.
Okay.
What I did was Eddie Murphy had the busboy, the 1, 2, 3, 4, the 1, 2. Those cats opened up for Delirious.
Oh, okay.
And then Richard Pryor had Patti LaBelle open for him. After Sunset.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Okay.
Musical act. He says it because as soon as Richard get on stage, people was just getting back to their seats because she had just performed.
Right.
And he kind of was like, look, I'm ready to go on stage.
Right.
And he talks about literally in the beginning he said, give it up for Patti LaBelle.
Interesting. Okay, so that has something to do with why you chose.
Yeah, and it felt big. And it was probably the smartest decision I could have ever made because the energy was insane.
I bet. It felt so, like, organic. It felt like I was like, oh, this is Chicago. Like this makes
It felt like somebody wrote recently on one of those lists. I made one of those top 10 lists or whatever. And it was like, felt like we was at a block club party in Chicago.
Oh,
I
nice.
love that.
Nice.
That's like exactly what that